So something that I've noticed on the Animation Mentor forums is that a lot of people seem to struggle getting their constraints to work nicely. And I just thought I might actually do a little tutorial here that explains how I've been setting them up in the past. I will say for the record, I don't work for Pixar, I don't work for ALM. I do work for a production company where we do 3D, but this is not a studio workflow. This is just how I've hacked something together and found that it's worked in the past. So take it for what it's worth. If you don't like it, don't use it. If you do like it, great. So, okay, what we're going to do is two things here. We're going to have Stuart pick up this box. Now, we can do this in one of two ways. Either we can have the box control both the hands, or we can have one hand control the box, which then controls the other hand. So we'll start with that second one first. So we're going to have the right hand be the controller, and it will control the box and then control this hand over here. First things first, we need to set the box up. You can't just, well, you could constrain directly onto it, but it's a terrible idea. Let's create a locator. This is actually going to be the thing that we're going to constrain onto. So we're going to have to drop it into the position where we want the hand to go. So we'll get it right in here. That's pretty good, I think. And we're going to scale this up, and we're going to call it right hand constraint. Then we'll duplicate it and put one on the other side, which will be where the left hand goes. So we'll call that one left hand constraint. Now, we could constrain directly onto these, and that would work really well. However, what I've found is, as soon as you constrain onto something, you can't then animate on it at all for obvious reasons. Like it's actually being controlled or controlling something else. So I immediately then duplicate each of those locators, and we make something called an offset. Basically what an offset does is allows you a level of control that's not directly connected to a constraint to do fine level animation work without messing things up, basically. So we just have to parent each of these together. The offset goes underneath the constraint. And then in this situation, we're going to have the right hand control the box, and the box then controls the other hand. So we'll make sure that the left hand is parented in here underneath the right hand offset. And then we'll put the box under here. So what we're left with is a locator that controls everything, an offset, which allows for more animation. See, it's not actually connected there. That's our offset. And then we have our left hand constraint and our left hand offset. So that means the box is now in a pretty good position. You could connect things up to here and be quite happy. I tend to do one more thing though. If we push the hand into position here, what you'll notice is, you could parent directly off the wrist, but the wrist doesn't really line up with this locator very nicely, which I don't like. It doesn't really ever seem to work nicely for me. If you start to rotate the wrist, then the box does weird things. So what I will then do is actually duplicate each of these offsets again, and we'll unparent them. Make sure that there's nothing underneath them, and we're going to call them right hand skeleton target and left hand skeleton target. Okay, so with those now, we'll drop the hands into position where we think it's going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on the skeleton. So skeleton is on. If you turn that on and you can't see the skeleton, come to shading and turn on X-ray joints so you can see it. So now we're going to grab the right hand skeleton target. Now I like to put it on this joint right here. So we'll select the locator first, then the joint, and push P. Now before you do anything else, push F in the outliner so you can actually find that again later on. And same thing on the other hand now. We're going to go, where is it? Left hand, grab that one, and P. So what that's left us with now is a locator which is connected into the hand a little closer to where we want it to actually grab onto the box, which is super handy. This is basically the setup that you'll need to constrain just about anything, in my opinion. If you have this setup like this now, you could constrain whatever you wanted into the hands. So let's go ahead and actually connect it up. We're going to select the right hand first, because the right hand is going to be the master that controls everything. So we'll find in here right hand skeleton target, and then we need the box, so right hand constraint, and then we're going to go animation, constrain, parent, make sure maintain offsets on, translate all, rotate all, and we click apply. So that means if we move this around, the box comes along for the ride, which is exactly what we're looking for. But what that also means is, let's say we move this up, we can go into our offset now and give it an extra level of control that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have the offset there. One thing I have found as well is sometimes I will write animate onto the offset so that I definitely don't animate the wrong thing. Anyway, let's just drop that back down into position for a minute. So now we need to control the left hand. So what we'll do is select the left hand. This should be the other way around this time, I think. We'll put it in like that. So we're going to select the constraint. And then we're going to select, in this situation, the wrist, because it's controlling what's happening. So we're going to go constrain, parent. Now, if we move this one, it'll bring the wrist along with it. If we push it around, it'll push the wrist around. But what we can then do is look at our offset and still move this independently if it was to, say, fall out of the right hand and you still wanted it to be controlled on the left here. This is not actually connected in this setup at all. We are connected directly to the wrist. Just to explain that, we have built this left-hand constraint here, but you need to control the IK wrist on this rig to be able to make this work. So for this current setup that we're doing, left-hand constraint is actually not connected at all. Anyway, so what that means is now this one can control all of this quite easily. The offset can control this further and bring the left hand along with it as well. And then we can still, well, you can't use that anymore. This is now all driven by the box. So you would have to then grab the offset and use that as your animation controller. So that is the first setup. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to put it all back on the ground. I didn't actually zero anything out, so we need to undo. And I'm going to keep undoing all the way back until the constraints are disconnected. So now we're back to square one where nothing is connected up. Okay, so the next setup is going to be having the box control everything. Now this is really easy. We need to reverse a few things here. We're going to unparent the box, and we'll unparent each of these controls for a minute. So we need to think about this a little bit differently. Because it's going to go in the reverse direction, we need to make sure that the constraint is the last thing in line. So we're going to have the right hand constraint be controlled by the right hand offset, the left hand constraint controlled by the left hand offset, and each of these is going to be driven by the box. So what we'll do is actually just drop another locator down. This is going to become the box controller. So we'll call it box master. And into there, drop the left and the right hand. So now if we move this one around, it'll take the controllers along with it. And we'll drop the box into there. So again, if we move it around, everything comes along for the ride. So from here, it's really easy. We're going to just then get the right hand constraint and the right hand controller and constrain. Again, make sure all of these are set to default. Apply. And then the left hand offset. Under there, we'll grab the left hand constraint and then the controller and apply. So now if we're to move this box master, both hands will come along for the ride. You can go left and right as well. You can go forward and back as well. And then we still have the level of control using our offsets to be able to control each wrist independently without affecting the box. So that is really all you need to do. Like, the main takeaway from this is when you're building your controllers, put a locator exactly where the hand is going to grab them from, and then parent something onto the skeleton as well if you need it to be the thing that's going to do the grabbing. And make sure you put offsets onto everything so that you still have a level of control once the constraints have been applied. If you have any questions, just email me at jamesmcdonald3d@me.com and I'll help you out.